And now to the U.S. response to alleged Russian hacking. We're hearing more praise from congressional Republicans for President Obama's sanctions targeting Russia and President Vladimir Putin. Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton is one of those supporting the sanctions, but he also joins a growing group of lawmakers who say this action should have come a long time ago.
It's not enough, Shannon, and it's certainly too late. Vladimir Putin is KGB. He always has been. He always will be. President Obama has consistently looked the other way from Russia's provocations and aggressions. I'm glad the president has finally realized the threat that Russia poses to the United States and our interests, but I wish he had recognized this 8 years ago.
All right, joining us now, Katie Pavlich, the news editor for townhall.com and a Fox News contributor, and Marianne Marsh, a former senior advisor to Secretary of State John Kerry. So we heard Republicans in agreement that Russia must be held accountable. We just saw Senator Cotton, also House Speaker Paul Ryan, Mike McCall, who chairs the House Committee on Homeland Security, all saying they support what President Obama is doing right now with the sanctions, but also saying it's not enough and also asking why now. Marianne?
Well, I think Democrats agree with Tom Cotton. President Obama should have done much more, much sooner, because there's evidence that the administration knew about this hacking as far back as 2015. So it is too little, too late. The problem is it's more than what Donald Trump will do. And the fact is, we know that this has affected the election. We know they've had the willingness and the ability to hack into not only the election, but other things. And no one seems to be doing anything about it. And now it looks like Obama and Trump are both trying to run out the clock. Obama's trying to get out the door and maybe release this report on his way out the door. He needs to release the report today. And Donald Trump is trying to run out the clock until he runs the government and nothing else will be done.
Let's be clear here, though. I want to stop you because you said we know that Russia hacked into the election. We got to be careful here. Russia did not hack into the election. A poll just came out that said that more than 50% of Democrats believe that Russia actually hacked into the voting tallies and changed them, which is completely false. And that's kind of the narrative that people are going with. So we want to clear that up, first of all. But, you know, Katie, the hacking, just one of many troubling moves by Russia. You know, Senator Cotton also saying, look, this country interfered with our NATO ships. Of course, the annexation of Crimea. He says this hacking was minor compared to some of these other actions. So why tie these sanctions only to the hacking?
Well, look, I also think it's very important to point out that Russia did not hack into voting machines, as some people have alleged. They hacked into the DNC, which their interference had nothing to do and no impact on the election results in terms of numbers. So that's the first thing. Wow. The second thing is that I think it's very important to point out here that neither political party should be benefiting from Russian interference. And it is true that over the last 8 years, Russia has done a lot to interfere, not just with elections in Europe and in the United States, but also with being very provocative in their part of the world. And we haven't necessarily issued a proper response. There was that famous moment between Mitt Romney and Barack Obama during the 2012 election where Mitt Romney warned about Russia and the implications it could have not only in the United States but in the world. And President Obama made a joke out of it and said he wanted his foreign policy back from the 1980s. And here we are today. It's important that we recognize that Russia is not a friend to the United States. They are a threat despite their propaganda maybe warming up to our country. And it's important for both political parties to put politics aside and realize that the best interest of the United States is not cozying up to the Russians.
Marianne?
This is more than politics. The fact is, this isn't a Democratic issue. It's not a Republican issue. It is an American issue. And when anybody, let alone Russia, tries to interfere with our democracy, which is what this is, then everyone should unite against it. The problem is, every chance Donald Trump has had the opportunity to pick between Russia and Putin and America, he's picked Russia and Putin every single time. During the campaign, during the election, since the election, right up to this very day. That is the problem. And number two, we do not yet know whether or not Russia did get into any other of the machines or anything else because no one's looked at the machines. They hacked into the National Election Commission. Katie, I'm happy to give you a school.
You're not connected to the internet. You can't hack into them.
I'm going to spare you. Katie, I'm going to spare you on this one, okay? Don't go any further than that. The rest of this story has yet to be told, and when it is, every American should be horrified, and they should be very concerned that Donald Trump not only sides with Putin and the Russians every time, he's not going to do anything about this, and everyone should ask
if you're going to make that argument, you could also argue that President Obama sides with the Russians, because as you mentioned, he knew about this in the fall of 2015, a year before the election, and did nothing about it. Why? Because he thought Hillary Clinton was going to win. He thought she was going to walk right into the White House to secure his legacy, and she lost, and therefore now President Obama is doing something about it because it didn't benefit him. And so if we're going to argue that one side of the aisle is on the side of the Russians, well, President Obama's been in office for the past 8 years, and Russian has been emboldened to continue their actions not only with the United States, but also in their part of the world.
All right, Katie, Marianne, thank you both so much for joining us. Happy New Year.
Thanks, Marianne. Happy New Year.